Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com, BidamountLive.com, and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and today is Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2021, and I hope all of you got your Christmas shopping done and you've got your preparations out of the way. We have around here, we've got a turkey that we'll be cooking tomorrow, and the boys are coming over. One of my sons is home with his wife and children. They all have the Omicron virus, so they're not going anywhere. They're okay though. There are no respiratory problems. They just don't feel well, and food doesn't taste very good. And they're sort of with their sons. They're 8 and 13. They're all binge watching Netflix apparently, and trying to pass the time until they feel better. And my daughter and her husband are working tomorrow. My daughter's the charge nurse of an ER at a big hospital, and my son-in-law works with the rescue squads, and they're both on call. This is their year to do it. So they're celebrating Christmas today at home, and we just talked with them, and their children, who are 3 and 5, my grandchildren, have been up since 3 o'clock this morning. Apparently they woke up first at 1 o'clock, went back to bed, woke up at 3. Then my daughter and son-in-law decided maybe we'll just watch a few cartoons and then let them have at it with the presents in a few hours, which they did. It's now the middle of the day, and I think they're all exhausted. Merry Christmas. The good old days. A couple of things I wanted to bring up that are going on in the auction world. This week on the reference section down here, under the catalogs here, we added a few things. One of them is a sale, the Pure Durand sale that's being held at Christie's, and a sale that's taking place in Edinburgh, the Lennon collection. You don't know who he is, but it's an interesting looking catalog, and I want to get over to it because it's all stuff that's in the buyable range, and this is it. Jim Lennon collection of silver, Asian, and European works of art. And I have to say, sometimes they write a little thing at the beginning of these catalogs about the collector and whatnot, and they allow the collector to say a few words. And in this collection, he did it, and I think it's one of the greatest ones I've ever seen. And it just says, "Welcome to the sale of my collection, built up in Northern Ireland over 40 years. As you will see from the catalog, it's hard to describe what it was that I collected, but I like to think everything I bought showed skilled individual workmanship, whether in stone, wood, silver, ceramics, or any other medium." And then the quote, sort of, he's asking himself, what's going to happen when all this stuff, when you are gone? What's going to happen to all of it? And that was the question he repeatedly was asked by friends and family. And I did have a plan. I was going to win the lottery and open a museum, and I'm still at a loss how that plan went wrong. In the meantime, welcome to my sale, and I hope you find something that you love. Okay, that's a collector. That's a guy that collects. And in the catalog, Bonhams has put together some really good lots. This is a good auction for people who buy things in the $200 or $300 range up to maybe the $5,000 range, somewhere in there. That seems to be where the price points are. All very nice things, and some very generous lots, some nice lots that they put together. If you're going to be in the area, if you have a reason to be in Scotland, or you're in the UK and the Isles, take a ride. Okay, this is going to be an interesting little auction. There's quite a few Japanese pieces, lots of 18th century blue and white, probably some earlier pieces, lots of 19th century wares, Meiji period bronzes, Chinese bronzes, cloisonne, pottery figures, you name it, monochromes, some good looking, there's a Ming Celadon there, Rue Scepter, here's some bronzes, some Tang figures, and some Ming figures, and so on and so forth, and some tables, furniture, all this stuff, all kinds of things, and it just goes on for quite a bit. And I think there's some buying opportunities there, especially if you're a dealer. I think there's some real good opportunities coming along in this sale. Some good small things. There's some good Chinese and Indian silver, Tibetan silver, and so forth. So do check that out, okay? And that's the Jim Lennon sale, January 26th in Edinburgh, Scotland at Bonhams. Worthwhile. And then over to this, the collection of Pierre Durand. Many of you probably don't know who Pierre Durand was, But Pierre Durand was an avid art collector, fan of the arts. He was the chairman and president of the Venetian Society. And in the Asian art world, he was most well known as being Khalil Rizq's business partner and longtime friend and fan of the arts. And they founded the Chinese Porcelain Company in New York, which Khalil ran. He was the public face of the company, but Pierre Durand was very involved with it, and financial backing and selecting things for the gallery and whatnot. And he and Khalil were very good friends, and they had amazing things. And this big mirror that's on the cover was one of the pieces that was I remember was at the Chinese Porcelain Company at one point. I guess Pierre decided to keep it. Good for him. At any rate, this is a heck of a nice sale, and it includes more than Chinese art, but there's a lot of Chinese art in here, as you might expect. And if you scroll into it, you're going to find also some very good Venetian glass, but there's a lot of blue and white pieces like this. Okay, lots of Kangxi pieces, as you might expect. All of it's top quality because it was all originally in the Chinese Porcelain Company. Some very good paintings, some very good contemporary paintings. There's a painting by Lu Dan, who is a very prominent Chinese living artist who got his start really with Khalil Rizq. Khalil Rizq and the Chinese Porcelain Company and Pierre Durand hosted this guy and promoted his work and supported him heavily back in the early 90s. He's now a highly recognized, highly regarded contemporary Chinese artist. And this painting is in the sale. Taihu Rock estimated at $70,000 to $90,000, and that was in Pierre's collection. And on. There's some very fine Blanc de Chine wares. Also, some extremely good Blanc de Chine wares in the sale. Not horrifically highly estimated and so forth, but just really, really exceptional. Pierre collected right up until pretty much till the end of his life, and he passed away earlier in 2021 rather. Anyway, you want to go through it, and if you go through the catalog, you'll find a lot of good, beautiful European and Italian art, especially Italian furniture. Here's a picture of his living room to give you some idea what it was like. It was in New York City. And there is another section here with Chinese porcelain that they sort of spread out the Chinese porcelain through the sale. Okay, so you sort of scoot ahead here, some really fine Kangxi pieces and so on and so forth. So if it looks like something you're interested in, check into it now. The sale is on the 27th of January in New York. So if you're in New York, you can go in, you can look at the stuff, you can make an appointment and leave bids and whatnot. And there's a lot of things in here that are in the under the $10,000 range certainly, and under the $5,000 range even, I suspect, if you go through it. And you might find some great things with great provenance. This is going to be down the road. Collections from the Pierre Durand collection are going to be good, very good provenance, because he was so highly regarded in the art world. And he was apparently a terrific guy. I never had the chance to meet him. I met Khalil Rizq a number of times, but I never met Pierre. I knew of him, but I just never met him. All right, now, what else is going on here? Oh, the Pendelfini sale took place, the one that we talked about last week that had that great Chinese chair in it, and they had some pretty good results. They had some buy-ins, though, so if you're a post-auction buy-in buyer, you might want to get a hold of Pendelfini and check out their site first. They're marking the pieces that sold versus the pieces that didn't sell. If you see price realize registration here, that means it's sold, and if it's blank, it didn't sell. Quite a bit of the coral sold, quite a bit of it didn't. The jades were spotty, some sold, some didn't, so if you're a jade buyer, check it out. The porcelain was the same. There were some pieces that just didn't get off the ground for whatever reason. But I want to go through some of the prices because overall, the pieces, it's interesting, the pieces we liked the most did awfully well. That we talked about last week. And they do post the price list separately. You have to, it's on their website. You'll see a thing on the page for the auction if you want to get the price results right up here. I'll just show you real quickly. On the right-hand side, here's the online results is the page that we're just looking at, and the PDF results are here. You click that, and it'll give you a window, and you can save them, download them, whatever, and that way you have the prices, and you get this list. All right, now, what happened? One of the things that was really interesting was this. It was a four vases, Chinese 18th century. They're Kangxi, double gourd vases. They were pretty big. And these were estimated at 20 to 30,000 euros. They were 37 centimeters tall, including the shades, I assume. And they did very well. They brought 37,000 euros. They took off. But it's unusual because you have a whole set of them versus just one or maybe a pair. You have four of them, which is quite unusual, very, very unusual. I'm not crazy about the lamps that were on them, but you can take that off. And then the 18th century pair of blue and white jars that were estimated at 2,500 to 3,000 euros. They ended up selling for just a little under 4,000 euros, about 3,700, 3,800 euros, as I recall. I think they were probably Kangxi period or early 18th century or early Qinlong. I didn't see the bottoms of them, but the shape and the color of the cobalt and the style of gilt decoration looks earlier to me. All right, and I think they were probably a very, very nice buy. All right, and then the strange lot of libation cups that I talked about last week, because I thought it was so interesting. And you have all these cups. There were 23 of them, and all of them were slightly different. Some of them are quite large. Some of them were done very much like carved rhino horn. They're all many of them are rhino horn cup forms that we think of as libation cups, often seen in rhino horns. But some of them are very rhino horny looking, like this one up here on the right, and this one in the middle, and some of these smaller ones look very much like rhino horns. And the whole lot did very, very well. In the end, it ended up selling for, I think it was 11,500 euros. Let me double check that just to be certain. Where's the price list? There it is. Lot 56. Lot 56. $11,875. Yeah. They went way up. And so that brings them in at about $500 or $600 a piece for these cups. But I suspect that they did that because people looked at them in person and realized how good they were. They looked very good to me, but that's why I was saying last week, if you could buy them anywhere within that estimate, you've got a real bargain on your hands, because whoever bought these is clearly, unless they're a collector, which probably not, but if a dealer is going to take the metal mounts off and break them up and sell them, and sell them for $800-900 a piece, something like that. A couple of them they'll get probably $1,400 maybe, but that's the way it goes. All right, and then on to this, the Quanzhong decorated vase. This was a pretty big vase, and it was beautifully decorated. Had a fairly strong estimate on it. But great quality, great sense of space, lots of negative space, beautiful painting, beautiful Quanzhong enameling technique, and it was done during the latter 19th century. How big was this? It was pretty big, yeah, 58 centimeters. So it was almost 20. It was 23 inches tall. This was a very large vase, and it ended up bringing 57,000 euros. So it went about 50% over its high estimate, to 57,000 euros, which is about, I don't know, what's that, about 68,000 US dollars. But a wonderful thing, and Quanzhong wares has a real strong hardcore of collectors out there that just love these. That's why a few weeks ago in the Rob Michael sale, they had that Quanzhong plaque that I thought was absolutely out of this world, and it went for about $7,000 or $8,000, and I think whoever got that got a steal. And I think at the end of the video here, I'm going to show you another piece of Quanzhong ware that was sold on eBay this week. And you'll get an idea why I say the Michaels example was a steal. But this was a strong price, but I don't think outrageous because of the quality of the decoration. This decoration here looks awfully good, awfully good. All right, and then on to this. The big gun in the sale was the imperial throne. This is a wonderful piece of furniture. I absolutely loved it. As you remember last week, I talked about it quite a bit. Is the style, the decoration, the quality of the carving, the selection of the woods, the details, all of it were just really, really exceptional, and very unusual with this platform, this completely carved. And it's either made out of Huanhua Li and Zitan, or possibly Hongmu. is the darker wood over here. But I didn't hear from anybody who went to see it, so I was asked I asked around a little bit to see if anybody could tell me what kind of wood that is. But regardless, it was one heck of a piece of furniture, and I thought the estimate was very low. And last week I think I speculated it'll probably go a good bit beyond that based on what other pieces of heavily carved and well carved Qing furniture has been bringing, and it did do very well. It brought 987,000 euros, or about 1.1 million dollars US. So it went roughly almost 8.5, 9 times, 9 times over its high estimate, but an amazingly rare piece of furniture, and what appeared to be in outstanding condition. The only thing I could see wrong with it possibly was that it appeared to have an old break here on the yoke rail up here that had been mended. But it wasn't a bad break. It was a pretty clean break, and they were able to put it back together. And whoever bought it will have their furniture guy look at it, and they'll tidy that up and get the joints to fit a little better, and it'll be absolutely perfect. But at any rate, that was the big highlight of their sale, and it did extremely well. And then there was this. This was the lacquer box on 3 legs, and it's a virtual twin to the one that was in the Perry collection that sold back in early November for around $140,000. The difference being that the one that was sold in the Perry collection in London or in Hong Kong had its interior. It had all the little boxes that go inside the fitted lacquer boxes, and it did very, very well. This didn't have that, and somebody I do know in Paris had asked for additional photographs, and in the photographs they showed that there was some broken legs on this. 2 of the legs had been broken off and put back, and I don't know whether it happened during the preview or when the legs got broken, but they were broken, which made him decide against pursuing it. But it didn't matter too much. In the end, it ended up selling for 7,000 euros, more than doubling its high estimate, which I think was kind of modest. But I think the damaged legs really impaired the final price. If they weren't broken, the thing probably would have brought 13 or 14,000 euros without its interior. But at any rate, it was a nice one. It was imperial. It was really great quality chinlung, and so somebody was still very interested in it. And then lastly was this, the bisque figure that I just thought was terrific. And I got an inquiry from somebody this week who's the buyer. He watched the videos. He watches these videos each week, and he lives in Europe, and he went after it. And he wrote me to let me know that he got it. He sent me some pictures and wanted some additional thoughts on it. And I told him basically I think the piece was either late Ming or Kangxi, and the face is spectacularly well carved. This was a wonderful example, and he paid 2,100 euros for it, which was double the high estimate. But I thought the estimate on this was artificially low. The number of the estimates in this sale were artificially low, such as the chair we were just looking at, the libation cups, things like that. They were on the low side, conservative side, and I thought the estimate on this was low also. And I don't think $2,100 or 2,100 euros was an overpayment. If this had sold for 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000, I would have said, yeah, it's a great looking thing. It's got a great face. That's the big thing that has going for the face on this was just wonderful, and it had a 800 to 1,000 euro estimate, which was blown away almost immediately, I suspect, on the opening bids. And that was it. So check out the Lennon sale in Scotland, and check out the Durand sale in New York that's coming up. 2 really interesting sales. The Durand sale too. If you're interested in things other than Asian art, you might want to take a look. He had some great things. Wow, he had some good paintings. Nice looking objects. All right, now what happened over on eBay this week? Well, few things. It was kind of quiet. It's going to be kind of quiet this week from what I've seen of the list so far. That'll be in the newsletter this week. We'll update the newsletter later on today. And I don't think it'll be too full, but there'll be some good things in there as always. But what happened to last week's newsletter items, they all did pretty well. One of the things that sold, and I put this in there, as many of you know, I like carved things, carved wooden things, crafts, things that are very tactile, that are very personal. And this was a carved coconut, and I like carved coconuts. And this was a nice one with Buddhist objects all over it, and auspicious objects and vases and fans wrapped in ribbons and all this. A little bit of loss right here. But overall, it was a pretty good-looking one. Ended up selling, I think, reasonably, $233.50. This was a seller in the U.S. out in California that sold it, and it was only $10 shipping to here. That's not bad. And then this was that beautiful Chinese export 18th century platter with the lady in the boat, which is sort of an unusual motif for one of these. Typically, they just have a landscape with people and bridges and whatnot. This one is a lady in a rather nice boat poling out from the shore from underneath a pine tree, and classic scene, V formation, geese in the background, and ended up selling for $355, which I think was a perfectly good buy. It was in excellent condition, had no damage, and the quality was very, very good. So, somebody got a nice buy, and it was, how big was it? It was a foot long, 31 centimeters, a little over a foot in length, almost 13 inches. And then onto these, the big planters, the big enamel planters. We spotted these. They were, I don't know, they were at a few $100 and not getting a lot of interest at one point when they first went up. Well, they got a lot of interest as time went on. They're 19th century examples, nicely enameled, good color. The bottoms looked awfully good on these all the way around, and they were pretty good size. And they ended up selling for $10,399, all right? But they were 10 inches tall, which is pretty good. So a lot of these planters aren't that big. They're like 4, 5, 6 inches in height. These are 10 inches. Nice size. You can put plants on them, really enjoy them. And it's the kind of thing that a decorator will go crazy over if it wasn't bought by one. And this was from a seller in Philadelphia here in the U.S. But wonderful looking planters. And then this, the Quandron hot food pot that we talked about last week, and I thought it was rather nice. I think I lamented that they didn't bother including the dimensions, though most people know what size these are. So it's not hard to figure out. They're all around 10 or 12 inches in length and so forth. And this was a nice one. It was a nice 19th century example. It still had its liner. The lid was beautifully decorated, and the painting technique was excellent on it, and had script. Okay, there's the landscape. Very, very nicely done. Fairly, the spacing and so forth, you'll notice, is fairly reminiscent of the example, the big vase that sold at Pendelfini also this week. Another Quandron example that we just talked about. And this one did fine also. It did, last week when we saw it, it was at $6,000. And I guess some people really loved it. Ended up selling for $33,034 for a hot food pot. I know that's getting right up there as far as hot food pot prices go. But it was the decoration, obviously, that sold it. And this is why I earlier in this video thought that that plaque that was the Rob Michael sale, which I think was 3 times better decorated than this one, somebody got a great buy on it, $7,000-8,000. So if you're one of you are out there that got that, bravo. You scored, but this is a very, very nice one. It wasn't that these people overpaid. It was one of the Michael sales I just think was a sort of a bargain, and I don't know why, but that's the way it goes. It's the auction market. It can still happen even on a well-publicized auction. All right, and then over to this. This was a terrific piece of Chinese silver, hammered silver, very arts and crafts sort of style of thing. Beautifully done, with some nice decoration. Had a mark on the bottom. The seller looked it up and couldn't find it. I looked it up and couldn't find it, but it is a Chinese mark. But there are lots of marks out there that haven't been recorded yet. But this was a very cool looking little piece of Chinese silver. And here's one side of it with serpents and flowers and all this other stuff. And it ended up selling for $201. I think that was one of the bargains of the week. I think that was a great buy. This was a beautiful object, handcrafted, and very interesting and rather unusual. Probably about 100 years old, 100 to 120 years old, but very nicely done. And then hopping along over here to rank badges, there was this rank badge. This is an old rank badge. It's an early 19th century rank badge. It's got a little bit of staining on it and whatnot, tiny bits of wear. A good textile conservator could clean this all up, though. Never worry about too much about textiles. In most cases, a good textile, if you have a good textile conservator in your area, and they're always busy, but if you see something that needs a bit of cleaning, if you have a conservator in the area that knows what he's doing or she's doing, you get in touch with them and say, when you're ready, I've got something I want you to look at that have you clean up for us. And most of the time they can do remarkable things with the cleaning equipment they have today. It doesn't hurt the fabric anymore and gets the dirt off. It's magic how they do it. And anyway, this was a nice one. It ended up selling for $1,520, which is a pretty good price, but not unreasonable because it's an old one. It's nicely done. The Fu Lion, or the Kirin with the horn on his head, is nicely decorated and applied, barking up at the bats. Here they come, the ascending bats, and you have some precious objects in the sky and so forth. So it was a nice one. And then lastly was this, the snuff bottle. This was a beautifully carved bottle, wonderful color. The color of this was excellent. And it's an old one, not 18th century, but 19th century, but very finely carved. All right, really, really finely carved all the way around, beautifully polished, fully hollowed out inside, nice looking cap. Ended up selling for $569. But the reason it brought that was that the quality of the agate that this was made out of was so good. The color was so good, so creamy and warm, beautiful color. And I don't think this was a bad price. I think the guy got a pretty good. He got a pretty good buy on this. That is some very nice carving on the end here. It's beautifully polished out all the way down over the shoulders, under the foot. The bottom of it is beautifully finished. You always want to check the bottoms of these snuff bottles. There it is. Nice looking, very tidy foot, and nicely done. Beautifully done. Clean and crisp. And $569 for a great bottle. And looks a little bit like a Christmas ornament. So that was it for the week. We'll have some things that we'll be adding to the newsletter page this week. And thanks to those of you who watched the video we did earlier this week. Came out pretty well, and that's that. Alrighty, and we'll be doing more of that type too on things in collections and things that I bought and my thoughts on them. There's a sort of a different vein to go on. We'll do one of them next week along with the regular videos. So all of you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. Enjoy your family. Stay safe. Have a fabulous meal, and see you all next week. Okay, bye-bye.